I've travelled all the seas in the world. Every jungle, every mountaintop. I've wrestled tigers with my bare fucking hands. I knocked out a hippo with my pinky. One day I opened up my fridge and I found it in a wholemeal loaf of Wonder White, iron fortified. What does it mean to you?
What it sounds like is that you've come to the realization that you are the change that you want to see in the world. And now everything's coming full circle and it's all starting to make sense.
Now that we got that out of the way, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here, mate. Good to have you here.
Cheers.
So, for the people who don't know you, give them a quick 10-second bio on who you are, what your body weight is, and what your age is.
My name's Edward, 28. I'm about 250 pounds. I live in Adelaide, sometimes Victoria, but then I get up to Queensland every now and then.
What was Eddie Riley doing when he was 10 years old?
When I was 10, I was still just a little fuck boy. I used to sweep the gardens at my house, wouldn't do a whole lot. But then once when I was 11, I kept asking my dad for cash, and then he said, "Go get a job, cunt." And I said, "I'm 11 years old, I can't go get a job." So he got me a job working at an Italian restaurant in Adelaide, working for, some pretty scaly characters. But as a child, everyone has these fuckboy sob stories about how they used to cook in their grandmother's kitchen. Everybody has the same story, dude, so get over it.
You pioneered fucking school off quite early.
I officially was not enrolled at school at 15, but when I was 14 and a half, I was sick for 6 months and didn't go back.
So talk to me about how those first years as a chef was, man, cooking.
It was pretty ludicrous. I'd go to school, leave school at 3 o'clock if I went to school, and my dad would pick me up, drive at 80 kilometres an hour down Old Belair Road, almost crashing, smoking ciggies on the phone while drinking a Hungry Jack's thick shake. And then I'd get to La Trappe at about 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'd run around like a mad cunt until 2 in the morning, chopping vegetables. I basically just worked for the chef. He told me I didn't work for the restaurant, that I worked for him. I would do whatever he said within the means of the law, sometimes not, and that was it.
What were the hours you were working when you were between the age of 14 and 18?
Probably about 65.
Is that just standard if you want to be a chef, that you just have to be okay with working 65 hours a week?
Pretty much, yeah.
Were you still enjoying it, working 65 hours a week?
Yeah. After I finished my apprenticeship, I worked at a place in Adelaide called which is like a secret society.
That place was so fucked, man.
It was heavy. It was wild.
I'm surprised you even fucking said it when we're on camera, dude.
I actually probably shouldn't say it.
We'll beep it out.
Beep it out.
We'll beep it
You
out.
actually probably have to beep it out.
We'll beep it out, dude.
It was eye-opening. Sometimes you'd do dinners and you wouldn't be allowed to go into the dining room for half an hour and shit would go on. But it was beautiful. It was a beautiful building, riddled with history, riddled with cigar smoke and cognac and fine art and misogyny.
What do you find so fascinating about food?
I don't know. I think food is highly overlooked. Without food, you die.
I totally understand that.
And a lot of people will associate most of their memories with food. Most of those same cunts will go, "Oh, I'll just get Domino's for dinner." If you look back 100 years ago, anything that good was ever really happening was involving food. You know what I mean? Like when people would explore the world and bring new things back, most of what they brought back would be food. They bring back jewels and shit like that, but that wouldn't affect the whole population. The new foods they brought back, the new seeds, the new spices, that affected the whole population. For example, like in England, when they were dominating the whole world, they brought all this shit back and it changed everything for them.
Do you think people are losing a sense of that connection with food these days?
Definitely. Especially because there's so much saturation in food now. From here, you walk 5 minutes and you've got 20 restaurants to choose from. 50 years ago, you didn't have that.
So do you think it's your duty as a chef to kind of rekindle that?
Yes and no. It depends how philosophical you want to get. At the end of the day, it is a job, and people are coming to your restaurant to buy something, and you have to provide them with a service. So, in theory, that's your duty, is to provide them with a proper service of what they are wanting to eat.
Is it a fine, delicate balance between catering to what the people want and also saying, "Fuck you, this is what you don't know what you want.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you what you want."
Definitely. And there's certain chefs, once you get to a certain level of fame and what people think of you, you can do that with your whole menu can just be fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. But when you're just a run-of-the-mill, chef like me, you have to have that balance between...
You almost have to work up to that stage where you can tell people, look, this is the fucking menu. This is what you're going to eat. If you don't like it, you can fuck off back to Domino's.
Their parents will give them fuck knows, snags and bread for dinner every night of the week, or rissoles and bread, or, just run-of-the-mill Aussie shit. And that definitely plays a big part in why people, when they're older, won't want to try new things. They'll just be like, "Oh, I'll go have an exciting dinner. I'll go have a pizza at Buongiorno's," and that's their spice of life. But, you know, that's all they know.
You know, people talk about trying to find, like, you have a Chinese neighbor, you're trying to find a mutual thing between me and the Chinese neighbor or me and the Arab neighbor. Well, nothing comes more mutual to both of you than the fact that you need to eat food to survive.
Yeah.
And you probably have an easier time accepting your Chinese or Arab neighbor if you indulge in a little bit of their food. I love Chinese women now, dude. You start falling in love with different cultures, different people, you start making friends, you start even learning the fucking language. You break down a language barrier, man, because once you start eating at Chinese restaurants, you know what rice means, you know what hello means, you start hearing motherfuckers yelling, and you start to fall in love with it, and it kind of opens your eyes and opens up the idea in your head that like a multicultural country is a beautiful thing because it can contribute to your life.
People like are very often intimidated by that whole scenario of going to a Chinese restaurant, people yelling in Chinese, and that because they're a Chico roll sort of fuck dick, they get scared of it. But if you have an open mind, which probably comes from when you were a kid, when your mum was like, do this, try this, do that, you're more like, oh, fuck it, I'll give it a go. And then the more you give it a go, the better and better it gets.
You can be eating a dish that means so much to a people, and you can learn so much from this little dish. I don't know if it's a poor man's dish or a rich man's dish or...
Chinese that you and I go to eat on a weekly basis, everything in there has a history behind it. It's pretty remarkable shit. And even like any culture, you know, like Arabic culture, anything that your family makes has a story behind it, how it was created, where it was created, who created it, why it is the way it is.
The most basic shit's what's meant to give you the most enjoyment. Like, you're meant to get the most enjoyment out of your food because that's something you need to survive.
Yeah.
As time goes on, I feel like it gets further and further from what it should be, but, you know, I go to spots like Jordan and stuff, and they still have lunch every day at 2 p.m. around a table with the family. And food's that vessel that connects people back together, which is extremely exciting. Or I remember a couple of weeks ago, the power went out in Adelaide for like 2 weeks, and I remember my mum, not 2 weeks, like 24 hours, my mum asked me and she was like, what'd you guys do when the power went out? I said, fuck, we had to chat. It just raised the bar with my whole dinner, man. Like, I enjoyed the food way more.
Yeah.
I felt like I got more satiated, and it just felt like an all-round way better experience, bro.
People don't do that in Australia. People in Australia are too tied up. They'll eat lunch at their desk. They'll eat lunch at their desk while sending emails. Then they'll rush home, go to the gym, go to a Zumba class, and then have a smoothie for dinner, and then go to bed and sit on a laptop in their bed. That's why I think it's so heavily diminished in Adelaide, in Australia. And then a product of that is Chico roll eating motherfuckers, because a Chico roll is a convenience thing, and you eat at your desk.
So what's the next step in food for you?
Next, I reckon I want to move overseas. I'll stay in Melbourne for another 2 years, 2.5 years, and then move overseas, I reckon. I don't know where. I was thinking Europe, but Europe's too, like, safe. If something fucks up in Europe, I've got family in Europe where it's just like...
You want to be thrown off the fucking deep end?
Semi, yeah.
Where it's like, what, just live or die?
Yeah, pretty much.
Where do you think you're going to find that? I
don't know. I reckon either the Middle East or Asia.
Does it ever take it out of you working that many hours? Do you ever just say, fuck this?
Not really. Because you have a choice. If you don't like it, you can just leave. This isn't Australia in 1905. You have a choice. And the other thing is, like, there's so many people that are so ungrateful for jobs and so many people that would be grateful to have a job. It's extremely first world, and it's extremely, you know, this millennium to do shit like that.
Talk about the boundaries in cooking. Do you feel like there are any boundaries to cooking, or do you think the boundaries are the boundaries that you put there?
Exactly that. The boundaries are only what you put in place. And also, like, where you work. But that's up to you again. So that's just the boundary you put there. You know, if you want to go and work at like a restaurant that only serves French food would obviously be your boundary. You do that because you want to go and learn how to cook that. And then if you go and work at an Argentinian restaurant where they only serve Argentinian food, that's a boundary that you've put there, but you then learn that and how to use it. And then one day, if you do your own thing, then you can use all those things that you've learned. And with all those things that you've learned, you sort of have no boundary because you know so many different aspects of how to cook different shit. And
if you hang around with people who are always trying to push the needle forward in terms of just pioneering different shit, do you think that's key?
I don't know, if your goal is to be a pioneer, you're probably going to find it very hard to be a pioneer. But if your goal is to just cook the best food that you possibly can with the best ingredients that you have, with the team that you have in the kitchen that you have, you're more likely to become a pioneer doing that than trying to be a pioneer.
Talk to me about the team aspect of being in the kitchen.
Great chefs know how to like deal with different people in different ways. They know how to deal with different suppliers in different ways to get the best out of everybody, because everybody plays a part. Whether it's the dishwasher, whether it's the bitch that runs tables, you know, you have to know how to get the best out of that person to make them want to be there and want to do a good job for the restaurant.
It gets heated as fuck, in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Do you take things personally?
I have done before, but it just depends on the situation, how you feel on the day. If you let, every time someone fucking caned you, if you just broke into a heat, you'd quit your job.
Does the challenge keep you going? Different
Always.
budget?
Like you can go work at one restaurant for 10 years and then go to a different restaurant and start at square one. let's make me a stock, and you might start making a stock, and they go, no, can't we do it like this? I don't give a fuck how you used to do it. This is how it's done here. That's what's so challenging about it, I think.
Well, that you always have to adapt and survive
Yeah,
to the environment that you're in with cooking.
yeah, definitely.
What would you say to someone who's just getting into the cooking industry, who's starting from the bottom? I mean, real bottom, like the donkey of the kitchen.
If they want to be in the industry for, indefinitely, then to them I'd say, like, for fucking 5 years, 10 years, just do what you're told and take everything on. Write things down, write everything down, and just don't complain.
Top 5 tips for Chico roll eating people.
Try new things, get out of the house, go to a Buddhist festival, buy your Chico rolls from Fish Out of Water on King William Road, and be more open-minded.
What are your 5 top tips for Chico roll eating motherfuckers, man?
There's no advice that I can give them that's
The
going to help them.
cactus, eh?
Yeah.
A Chico roll eating motherfucker's a redneck, dude.
I've eaten a few Chico rolls back in the day when I was stoned.
But there had a time and a place in your life that as you spiritually grew, you
Here's what I
outgrew
think.
the
Here's
Chico
what I
roll
think.
phase.
If you're at a point where you are buying 4 packs of Chico rolls from the supermarket, keeping them in your freezer,
And deep frying
and
them.
deep frying them yourself,
With
or
a
even
deep fryer.
oven.
You can't own a deep fryer, eh?
If you own a deep fryer and you have frozen Chico rolls in your freezer,
My neighbour used to do that, and he's the type of cunt whose house was infested by termites and had a fucking boat.
Lit.
I need you to hit my people with some inspiration, some food inspiration.
If the thing is for you, like, if you have to, be a Chico roll fucker, and, you're eating a Chico roll out of necessity because you're in a rush, this is what I do. Like, I work in a kitchen, so I always have good food around to eat. But, like, some days when I don't eat a lot of food at work, I'll try and avoid getting something fucked, like, a oven-baked restaurante frozen pizza out of the nice freezer section at Coles, and, like, I'll wait and then just gorge on heaps of good food. Let yourself get hungry and then gorge. It's probably not the best health option.
I think it's good for your mental health though.
Yeah.
As much as I hate seeing a redneck fucking racist motherfucker eating 50 Chico rolls a day, hating the Chinese dude who owns a shop down the street saying he claimed his job. As much as I don't like that cunt, I almost feel bad for him at the same time.
You want to try and fix it.
And I want to try and fix him, dude, but the easiest way to fix this motherfucker is to fix what's on his plate. He just doesn't realise it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
The key point is for this whole conversation we just had is food is the cure.
But think about if everybody in the world had enough food to eat for a week, how different the world would be at the end of that week. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me on the show, mate. I really appreciate it. Jess, do you want to come in here and put your hands on this? Producer? Jess, come put your hand on this. People love you and they want to hear more about you, and I think the people need to, be more aware of how food's going to change their life.
They do, because people take it for granted.
Thanks. That's a wrap. Let's get out of here.
Oh.